You can also go to buffalosbestflowers.com. Well, for a short period of time, our next guest was immersed in the life of a Holocaust survivor. Joseph Krygier was able to take the story of one man's survival and put it into this new book, A Rage to Live, Surviving the Holocaust So Hitler Would Not Win. It's the life story of Victor Breitberg and his journey from Poland to life today in the United States. So welcome, Joseph. Nice to have you here on AM Buffalo.
Thank you, Linda. It's my pleasure to be here.
You're a Western New York native.
Yes,
Victor
I am.
Is living outside of New York. Well, he was.
Fort Lauderdale now.
Now he's in Fort Lauderdale.
Coconut Creek, Florida, part of the Fort Lauderdale, Miami metro complex.
I have to tell everybody, as soon as we knew that Joseph was going to be here, I read this book over the weekend. I couldn't put it down. Yeah. He's an amazing man, Victor,
yes.
Because not only is he a survivor of one camp, he was sent to a bunch of camps.
Yes, 4.
He was sent to, I mean, he went from Auschwitz to
Buchenwald
to
Remsdorf, then death march to Theresienstadt, where he was liberated, and of course had lived in the ghetto before the camp experience.
Right, and was taken away at one point and jumped out of the truck.
Yes, he had
and survived another.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my God!
He wanted to be back with his family. He didn't want to be taken away, so he went back and then was put out of the camp with his family, his surviving family, because his father had died in the ghetto, and but then his mother and his younger brother and sister, their first day at Birkenau, Auschwitz, were cremated and
right, they were separated.
Yeah, up
and
the
that was
chimney.
it. Never saw them again.
Never saw them again.
And then found out in such a frightening way.
Right. Which is
how they had died.
Exactly, which is part of the title I extract, the subtitle of the book came from. The older Polish man who wasn't Jewish, who was there, and his family had been exterminated as well, told him, you know, you've got to survive so Hitler won't win. And so that's where we got the subtitle for the book. And the other part, A Rage to Live, came from Victor's own thoughts at one time when he was just so determined that he was going to live, and that's the way the words fashioned themselves. I have this deep, intense desire, this rage to live. So we put the two together to come up with the title of the book.
It was wonderful. What was it like? You spent some time with him. What was it like? What's he like?
Well, over a 2.5-year period, he's a funny man. He has a great sense of humor. He is a man, obviously, who's learned much, and even, but I learned and have been able to write in the book about him, is just about like that. He's a very compassionate man, very considerate man, not an overly emotional person as far as showing it, but is deeply emotional on the inside. He might not like me saying that, but he is. And because we spent so many hours together, I just know that I had some glimpses into his life as a friend and as a male.
Yes.
And that kind of a bonding relationship that probably some others haven't quite seen in quite the same way.
But you know, he was a guy full of life. And,
yes.
And I don't get the impression he's a bitter person.
No, he isn't. But obviously the book shows at one time he was.
Yeah.
Very bitter. And then when he took the return trip back to the city of Lodz, as we even put by the end of the chapter, he came to reconcile himself with the past of having lived in Poland. See, part of the problem was, Linda, and even some other Holocaust survivors, the reason we have the quote of Elie Wiesel in the beginning of the book is some things that never happened are true, because there are stories that have occurred, you don't know it, you almost can't make anything up that didn't occur in the Holocaust. Now, from Victor's experience and from some others, they only knew in their context seeing some Poles treating them poorly, horribly, where after the war, and then as he even began to study the Holocaust more and more on his own, he came to realize all Poles weren't like this. As a matter of fact, maybe not many were like this, and that Poles, as we've mentioned in the book, out of all the countries that Hitler was attempting to conquer, were the only people who were summarily executed for helping Jews. So he lost the chip on his shoulder after his return to Lodz, reconciled, having learned more about his native land and so on.
And he stayed friends with some of the boys that he survived with.
Oh, yes.
He moved from camp to camp with,
yes.
and he found ways to make himself useful.
Yes.
So that he was able to live and survive these camps.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah, they're very close. Of course, they're diminishing in numbers.
Yes.
Just like World War II veterans are. Their gathering time would be May 8th every year, Liberation Day, which also happens to be Victor's birthday. So that was quite a 17th birthday present for Victor.
And we want to tell people he's still doing well. He's
yes,
down in
he's
Florida.
doing well. 85 years old last week on May the 8th.
But let me ask you, Joe.
I was just there 2 weeks ago with him for a week.
How has writing this changed your life?
Well, it increased my desires for working cross-culturally and multi-ethnically, which I've done all my years in ministry as a pastor. It's caused me to want to instill in others a desire to do the same. It's intensified that, especially young people. You know, we live in a generation of young people today. In my experience, is 20 years on staff even at the Buffalo City Mission. All right, and dealing with a couple of different generations of people. I see a younger generation of people in certain communities who don't even really have any connection to their parents or possibly grandparents' involvement in something as huge as the civil rights movement.
Very true.
And I think that what we do when we bring up the Holocaust, it's not just a matter of the Holocaust, the Jewish Holocaust. There's a history that goes back to antiquity, and genocide is going on today. And we don't want people to forget that fact. We don't want people to become insensitive to the fact that it's not going away. We might like it to. We might like to have hope for some kind of a utopia in this world, but we have to have a little more realistic and pragmatic understanding of the nature of the world, the way it really exists. And of course, as we even write about in the book, depending on your worldview, you may interpret the events in a different way, but the fact of the matter is, the bottom line, regardless of your interpretation, is it's there, it's not going away. So if we can speak to people about this, bring in some of the more current issues. I've met survivors of Sudan and
and Victor's all about that too.
Yes,
it's not
absolutely.
just his story. He wants people to know this is still going on in other parts of the world.
Exactly. I don't know any Holocaust teacher, to use that terminology, that I've met during this process who doesn't feel exactly the same way. It wasn't just about my Holocaust. What's going on today is just as important for us to speak about and to try to breach as best we can what's going on with the ideas of intolerance in the world. And oftentimes seeing that it's within ethnic groups. Whereas, you know, we do mention that the Holocaust of World War II and the Jewish Holocaust was a transnational thing, genocide, which it isn't today in any cases. It's usually self-contained within countries, and so that does give us a very distinct view of what Holocaust is historically to the Jewish Holocaust of World War II.
Joe, it's a great book. Would you like to see it hit the play stage?
Well, I'm hoping. I'm working on the play now, and of course my personal hope is that possibly Jewish Repertory Theater, if I submit it to them, would be interested in it by the time I get it done and have a readable draft, which I'm close to. And beyond that, I do have friends from my theater days who are interested in it, and I'm hoping that possibly one of them might be able to do the play one day somewhere as well.
Well, I can tell you, everybody, I could not put it down this past weekend. It's really a wonderful, wonderful book about a very, very incredible man and his life story and how he shares it with Joe. It's a rage to live, surviving the Holocaust so Hitler would not win. You really feel that you are there. And it was just quite a read, and it's really a very important read for everybody. Listen, it's available everywhere, but if you'd like to speak with Joe, get in touch with the New Covenant Baptist Fellowship. That church is in Angola. You can give them a call at 895-2561. But look on Amazon.com. You can check Barnes & Noble. It's there. It's called A Rage to Live, Surviving the Holocaust so Hitler Would Not Win. It's must read. You have to read it. We'll take a break and be right back. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Linda,
Great job
very
on
much.
This book.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
County Executive Mark Polenkars is here with an update on all things Erie County. It's Pet Talk Tuesday, plus we're going to have another deal of the day for you and more surprises, all right? Don't forget to get your book. Artwork is fantastic, and it's a wonderful read. And as we say goodbye, we're going to take you back to Memphis, so enjoy some of that music. And remember, that show's coming to Shade.